Well, good evening. My name is Councilwoman Nury Martinez, and I'm the President Pro Tem of the LA City Council, and my district is in the San Fernando Valley. How many of you are from the Valley? All right, very cool. Well, thank you very much for being here. You know, when thinking about doing an event that would sort of close off Latino Heritage Month, you know, I came across my friend Alejandra, who thought of this wonderful idea of bringing Latinas together from across the city to do a Latina Empowerment Health Summit, to begin to talk about our health and how to take care of ourselves. I think for so many of us, especially my generation of women, I think we grew up with moms who worked really hard, that sometimes worked 2 or 3 jobs, that would sometimes work the graveyard, and they worked themselves into the ground. And I don't ever remember growing up a time that my mom ever said I needed a break, or I needed to just take time for myself, or I needed to figure out what I mentally needed to keep going. All I remember is my mom kept working from morning to sundown every single day, whether she was going to work 6 days a week, or she was coming home, taking care of kids, making dinner, cleaning the house, going to church, whatever that was for my mom. She was working every time I saw her on her feet. How many of you have no tias, grandmothers, or moms like that? That they just work day in and day out. So think about that. Think about what that does to your body, and think about what that does to your mind. You know, sometimes I think to myself, as busy as I am, because political life is complicated, this place is complicated sometimes. I have to go and run from meeting to meeting, to committee, then I have to get home. I have more meetings in the district, and my work is not done by 6 o'clock in the evening. I still get home. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and people still expect things from me at home. So there's never a time when you get to tell yourself, I need a break, I need a day off. That doesn't happen for most of us. For most of us, we just keep going because that's how we were raised, and that's what we know how to do, because guess what? Women get it done. Right, ladies? We were just built that way. So in putting this summit together, I wanted to expose you to amazing women that are having incredible impact on social media, that are talking about how to take care of themselves, how to empower women to do a couple of things. How to take care of your mind, how to take care of your body, and how to take care of your health. And I think those are the 3 things that are really important in order for us to live healthy, successful lives. It doesn't matter how much money you make or how successful you are if you don't feel good about yourself. It doesn't matter where you live, who your friends are, what kind of clothes you wear, if mentally you're not okay. And sometimes we just need a mental day for ourselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I wanted to expose you to this dynamic group of women that I'm about to introduce so we can start to talk about that. My generation of young people, when I was growing up, I'm 46 years old. I grew up in the 80s and 90s where no one talked about sex. I grew up in the 80s and 90s where nobody wanted to tell their parents they were gay or lesbian or something was going on in their family. There were so many stigmas around that. People just didn't talk about that. And you know what happened as a result of not talking about this stuff? We had what we called the AIDS epidemic, where I had to bury a lot of my friends because they died of being exposed to HIV and AIDS. And I went through that generation of people who died because they couldn't tell their parents they were gay. They couldn't come out because that's not something you did. Or you would get kicked out of your house because you were dating somebody who they didn't like or was from another race. And so I really want, as a mom, I'm a mom of a 10-year-old, I try my best to tell my daughter that anytime she has an issue, she can come and talk to me about it. Because her teachers are not raising her, the police isn't going to raise her, I'm going to raise her. And so I want all of us to have those conversations, and I want to invite a really good friend of mine. Alejandra Campoverdi is somebody that I've been following on social media. How many of you follow her on Instagram? Not only is she so impactful on social media, she's also really beautiful and really smart. So in our business, I think that's a perfect combination, right? You got beauty and brains, and you can make anything happen. Alejandra has an incredible journey that I'm going to let her talk about in just a minute. But in speaking to Alejandra, I got to know her. First of all, I started to follow her when she ran for office. A couple of years ago, she was really gutsy, and she decided to run for Congress. And before that, she was working for President Obama in the White House. So I started to follow Alejandra, and when she was on the campaign trail, she was talking about things that were uncomfortable, things that people or politicians didn't speak about. And I said, what an interesting thing. This woman actually wants to get things done. After her campaign was over, she didn't go away. She didn't go out and hide anywhere. She decided that she wanted to launch this health initiative to empower other women to take care of their bodies, because she's going to share with you her incredible journey. So I want all of us to give her a big, big round of applause to one of the most bravest women I know. Beautiful, smart, and brave. I want you to give her a big round of applause. Alejandra Campoverde is here with us.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. I am so honored to stand beside and partner with Councilwoman Martinez today. She is such a tireless advocate for women and families. Please give her a round of applause. So I started the Well Woman Coalition, which is an initiative to empower women of color to have agency over their own health and healing for a really personal reason during a really personal time. So I have never known a time without breast cancer in my family. There has been breast cancer through every generation that I've known. My great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mom, and 2 of my aunts. And so I don't know if anyone here has hereditary type diseases in their family, but you realize that people just keep getting sick. And you start thinking, what is it that's going on? I never thought I'd get an answer. But in 2013, I started hearing about something called the BRCA gene mutation. Raise your hand if you've heard of BRCA, BRCA. So when I first heard about it, I thought maybe this is the answer. It's known as the breast cancer gene. And what it means is if you have this gene mutation, the mutation 2, which is the one that it turns out I have, you have an 85% chance of developing breast cancer. So when I found out that that was true, I decided, you know, I want to try to get ahead of this and do everything that I can do. So last year, almost exactly a year ago, I decided to have a preventive surgery in order to lower my risk. By having a preventive surgery, a preventive double mastectomy, what I would be doing is lowering my risk to under 4%. Little did I know, though, when 6 days after the surgery, I get a call from my surgeon, and she said, well, we looked at all the tissue that was removed, and you actually had breast cancer unknowingly. So it had been missed by every mammogram, every ultrasound, and I realized that I had breast cancer, but I also realized that I had beat breast cancer before I knew I had it, and that was thanks to being empowered to take ownership and empower myself over my own health. And so that is the time during all this that just happened that I'm telling you when I launched this initiative, because I realized, seeing that my abuelita died of breast cancer because she had no health insurance and she was afraid to ask our family for a mammogram when she felt a lump because she didn't want them to have to go out of pocket and we had no money. Seeing her experience where she died 6 months later and we lost her, which was devastating to all of us. And then seeing my mom's experience when she was diagnosed, she had an HMO and all of her doctors treated her like a number and I had to like make them pay attention to her. Seeing how unempowered she felt, and then seeing how I felt now, the 3rd generation, I realized us as young Latinas, how much power not only we have over our own bodies, but in order to help our families and be able to help our families also feel empowered, to remind them about the tools and resources that are available to them. So that is my message for you, and that's why we pulled together this incredible group of women tonight. You're going to hear every woman who is sitting here is a boss. Every woman who's going to be sitting here is a CEO or a founder or an expert. They are incredible, incredible women who have so much to share to you. But that's why we brought them together for you today, to show you how powerful it is to be the CEO of our bodies as well. You know, that is something that we can do. It can have ripple effects to our family and community, and it's so, so important. So I'm very excited to share all this information with you tonight. This is seeing all your faces right here. It makes me so, so happy. Thank you for being here. And with that, I'm going to invite up our panelists so we can get started.
I grew up, my Mexican grandmother, she was, always taught me to turn to the earth, to use, sábila, limón, this, so I was very comfortable always looking at plants as medicine and looking at them as things that we use for our bodies. So I kind of made my own little concoction, and I found a little, formula that I would use to do my own hair. So I started wearing my hair curly in high school, and I would run into other women that I call them undercover curlies in the bathroom, other girls that would be like, psst, psst, my hair's actually curly. It doesn't look like this. How do I get my hair to look like yours? So then I would go to their house and I would do their hair. And then that happened in college too. I would meet these girls in, the dorms and the elevator in class, and these undercover curlies, I would do their hair and teach them my little concoction that I would carry in my little Ziploc bags and have to put it in the refrigerador and come back and forth. And that moment that they would see their hair natural for the first time after straightening it their whole life, it was such an amazing moment, and I feel like I wanted to be able to share that moment with more women. So when I started making these products, I never intended to sell them. It was just purely for me and the people around me. So when I started making them professionally with the lab, it was more so because they would go bad in my bag. Like I would have to refrigerate them, and they would start spoiling. So when I did end up launching, I just opened up a social media page, and all those women that I had helped since high school, there was hundreds of them. I had forgotten how many there were, and they all became my first customers.
Wow. I love that you carry your hair products in your Ziploc bag, in your bolsita. That's cute. All right, let's start with Bricia. I feel like I know this. Bricia is a restaurant owner here in Koreatown, and I met her because a couple of years ago, Council President Herb Wesson had recognized her family's business and her restaurant, and I just thought she was amazing because she's been doing more and more things. You're so creative. Not only are you an amazing foodie, but you also have this amazing podcast that speaks to women and moms. How did you start? She needs a mic.
Oh, hi everyone. My name is Bricia Lopez. I was born and raised in Oaxaca. Anybody from there? Hey, paisanas, what's up? So I moved to LA when I was 10 years old with my family. My dad opened a restaurant called Guelaguetza in Koreatown. I worked every single day at my parents' restaurant through middle school, through high school. I don't know how many of you come from a family business today. Well, I mean, if you did, you wouldn't be here because you'd probably be working, I guess. Every after school, it would be work. Every weekend would be work. I absolutely 100% hated my family's restaurant because I thought it robbed me of something. And it wasn't until later on in life that I realized that it didn't rob me. If anything, it taught me the power of hard work and dedication, and it showed me what hard work looked like. In 2008, my father lost all of his businesses along with my mom. They were on the brink of bankruptcy. They were going to sell their restaurant, and that is really when I realized that, I couldn't allow my dad's legacy, all his hard work, his dedication, the time that he spent away from his family to go just away like that. So my siblings and I took over the restaurant. My parents retired. My parents now live in Oaxaca. They've been living in Oaxaca since 2010, so almost 9 years. They have, and it's amazing to see them living their best life out there. And since then, we grew the restaurant to what it is today. My siblings and I, we've launched other businesses. We have a michelada cocktail mix that we have in retail stores and we sell online. It's called I Love Micheladas. You are all very young to know what that is. I won't even go into that, but if you have a tío, a mom, a tía, or older sibling that's over 21, tell them to go visit ilovemicheladas.com. And my sister and I, 4 years ago, launched Super Mamas podcast, which is a podcast where we speak about not just women, not just mothers, but also women empowerment. This year, I also opened a mezcal and tequila bar, which you guys are also very young to know about, so I will not go into that in Vegas. But again, if you know an older friend, let them know about that. It's in Vegas, and in 2 weeks, our cookbook will be launching. That you're very old enough to buy. It is called Oaxaca Cooking from the Heart of Mexico, Food from the Heart of Mexico. It's a long title. And I run, and all of this is done with my siblings and I, and just very happy to promote not just the food from Oaxaca, but the culture, the art, and be able to be part of this amazing city that I now call home. I've been living in LA for 25 years. I feel very proud to be here, and thank you so much. And it's amazing to see so many Latinas and see how the future generation is going to really shape this city, and it's really going to be you guys. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. I also read, Bricia, that your mezcal bar is in Vegas at the MGM. At the park MGM.
They're too young.
They're way too young, but one day you'll get there. One day you'll be in Vegas, down the road. Ana?
Hi, so thank you so much for doing this. This is very important, and the word that's coming to me right now as I'm looking at all of you and everyone here is sisterhood. It's so important to have these spaces where we come together, where we have those unique bonds that only us know, what it is that we share in common. So I'm going to keep my story very short because I'm much older than all of you here, but I was born in Houston. My parents are from El Salvador. And I grew up in El Salvador. Salvadoreña? ¿Cuántas? Yay, viva El Salvador! So I grew up there until I was 18, and then I went back. My dad still lives in Texas, so I went back to Texas to go to college, and I studied TV production. And it was very funny because in El Salvador, I had TV production didn't exist, right? It was not anything that anybody thought that you could ever do. So it was once I left that I realized what I wanted to do, and my first job was in Univision. I worked for MTV. I worked with, it used to be Mundos here. That's when I landed in LA about 15 years ago. So always creating content, always for the Latino market. That's always been my passion. That's where I feel comfortable. Spanglish, English, Spanish, etc. Then I became a mom to Camila, who's right here, who's 12.
Camila, stand up.
And
how cute.
She loves to take credit for what I do now, because it was after she was born and I decided to be a stay-at-home mom, and then the recession hit in 2008 for us, and same as your dad, we were looking, at losing everything. And then I decided I really didn't have an option to go back to work because it was more expensive to have somebody to take care of her than me going back to work. So I decided to launch a blog called Spanglish Baby. And it was for parents raising bilingual and bicultural kids to make sure that we would keep our roots alive and that we keep our language alive, and that no one tells us that we need to stop speaking Spanish to learn English, because we're capable of doing it all. And that led to just me discovering a world where I could create content on my own, that I needed no money to do it, just really the passion and to sit down every day and write a blog post, to research, to meet people. And that grew eventually into a community of Latina bloggers. There was very few of us back in 2010. So I launched a company called Latina Bloggers Connect. And by launching a company, I mean a laptop and my kitchen table, me, myself, and I, probably in my pajamas, with a baby next to me. So no money, no nothing, just launching this. And it just became the first community of Latina bloggers, YouTubers, podcasters, influencers, etc. It's 9 years now. And we're now called We All Grow Latina Network. If you follow us at We All Grow Latina, you can see that we're really a community to uplift each other. We all grow comes from when one grows, we all grow. So we totally believe that we don't fit in the stereotype that women don't help each other. We want to completely eliminate that stereotype, that we will open doors for each other. If I learn something, I'm going to help you learn it as well. If I open a door, I'm going to bring all of you in with me. And we have a conference that has been going on for 5 years now. Our 6th year is happening next year. And it's I get to surround myself with amazing women like them to come and teach and talk and inspire and just help each other grow.
So tell us before we move on, tell us where the conference, what month is it, where is it at, how many days, what's the date?
So next year it's actually May 28th through to 30th. It's in Palm Springs at the Rivera Hotel. And tickets go on sale tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Great. Thank you.
And Ana's being humble. This woman is the most influential convener of Latinas that are influencers, that are business owners. Everyone comes together at her conference every year, and it's actually a very, very powerful and meaningful community for all of us. So thank you for that. Yes, let's give her a hand. So I have a question about, I'm going to take you guys far back when you were growing up, because I don't know about you guys, when I was growing up, health wasn't really a conversation other than someone got sick and what are we going to do about it? And how are we honestly going to pay for it? That was like the first thing that we thought about. Do we have insurance, and can we afford to take care of whatever needs to be done? And so I would love to know from each of you what your experience was around health and wellness growing up. What were you taught about health?
Well, again, I grew up in a family business. I don't know if how many of you guys, again, are in the family business, but when you are starting off a family business or part of it, you're not really allowed to get sick, because if you're sick, it's you're lazy. And you need to work to get better. And that's just the message that you have, number one. And then number two, don't eat sugar or candy because you're going to get diabetes, right? Because half of my family is diabetic. And those are really the two things that were talked about in my house about health. And everything in my experience, whether the parenting that my parents did, I mean, obviously I turned out to be great, so my parents are amazing, but I think that most Latino parents, including my own, they are just focused on instilling fear inside of you, right? Everything is around, don't do that, don't touch that, don't be this, don't do that, you're gonna die. Like, it's just always so like that, right? So I think that for me, health was, and nobody ever talked about death. Because if you said, oh, that something's gonna happen, you're gonna call that into your life, So it was all really fear-based, don't have sugar, and don't get sick because then you're lazy. That really was just my entire idea of wellness growing up.
That's real. Yeah, I think similarly to Bricia, there's like a lot of fear that I grew up hearing about. And I think too, like diet culture in Latino families like really affected me and like my own image. Like if it was either like you're too flaca or you're too gordita, like there's no like just healthy. And I think that like really impacted my self-image growing up. And I think even to this day, I think like having this like really negative attitude towards food and body, I think like even carried on into adulthood, and I wish like, damn, like, why can't I have that extra slice of, like, pan dulce, mom? Like, why? It was a lot of, like, restricting. And I don't know. I think I'm still unpacking that even as an adult.
Yeah, I think that so much of the calladita te ves más bonita applies to health, right? I think, the two topics that you're not supposed to talk about too much around the dining table, politics and religion, I think was what's most talked about, other than it should have been mental health, wellness, health, and even, teaching us how to manage our finances. So when I think about like an image comes to like my mom serving me arroz con leche, which arroz con leche salvadoreño is like more like soupy. It's hot, right? And delicious. Every time I got sick, I would get that. So I would be excited that I could eat arroz con leche when she got sick. Or the, no andes descalza, right? Like it's just more of the myths, but you never really talk about how will food impact your health, right? It's don't eat because te vas a poner gordita, or the sugar, et cetera. But it's not about, you're not even taught that food is nutrition, and how to take care of yourself. And for girls, we don't even talk about our period. I was not prepared. I was not ready to even understand the changes my body was going to go through and who I could talk to about that. So I think even starting from there, right? Like what are the changes that are happening in our body that we don't even have? I didn't have any woman in my family that I could go to talk about that.
Yeah. Hello. Okay, perfect. So for me, I think there was you can't hear me? I think there was a big learning curve for my parents. Sorry. Okay. So, sorry. Both my parents are from Mexico, and they both grew up in ranchos where everything that they ate, they grew. Like they had one of them had 13 brothers and sisters, the other one had 11, and they legit, the milk that they drank was from their cow, the eggs were from their chickens, the meat, the plants were from literally everything that they grew. So I think coming to this country, there was a really big learning curve in understanding the food dynamic. Like, I think for them too, they didn't understand how processed this food was. Like, I think too, they would eat the same type of food, but then they wouldn't understand why they were facing diabetes, they were facing high cholesterol, they were facing all of these health issues, when to them in their head, they're like, we have the same diet, tortillas, arroz, frijoles, and a lot of like pork and this. So I think for them, and it was kind of instilled in me, was kind of not really understanding food, not really understanding what organic is, what natural is, because they come from a very different world of what that even means. So yeah, that was kind of my experience with food. And yeah.
I just remember that Savila cured everything.
Hello?
When I was growing up.
Hello? Oh, there. Yeah, I think this works. Yeah, cool.
It works? Okay. So my next question to you ladies is, I talked a little bit about that during my opening remarks, that growing up, I don't remember having a conversation about health and well-being. I think you're to your point about not even talking about our periods. I was very blessed that I had a mom that was incredibly oversharing. I think she overshared my entire life, but it was almost too exaggerated that you almost feared to live because you thought you were going to die every day. Because you exaggerated about everything, including your period. It's like I felt that conversation was, yes, it happens, but the way my mother described it, you thought you were going to die every month. But the reason I'm asking this question is, so for you growing up, what does the word empowerment health mean to you? Because when I was growing up, I mean, I got to tell you, I mean, you worked out so that you wouldn't gain weight. You didn't work out because it was mental relaxation or because or yoga, for example, was nothing that I was ever exposed to as a little girl. So in my family, my mother just worked, and that's all we ever did. And then we had to come home and take care of everybody else. And I almost feel like it's almost ingrained in us that to take a day off for yourself is looked upon as you being lazy. What is wrong with you? Why can't you do it all? And so to you, what does that mean to feel like you're the CEO of your own body and your own health? What does that mean in this day and age?
There's a lot that you said there that we can unravel for hours and hours. I don't even know where to begin. I'm just going to start by saying that if your mom is afraid for your life, it's because she loves you very much. And I don't know why Latinas instill this fear in their children. I was speaking to my therapist about this, and she told me that's the way we show love. And I think it's true, because I look at my kid and I'm just like, the biggest fear of my life is like something happening to him. So I think that we have a long way to go. And I think that I talked about this on our last panel, and I think it has to do with, I know we've all seen it probably on Instagram, the self-awareness situation, the really understanding the value of who we are and loving ourselves. You know, we are brown girls that are growing up in a country that right now maybe tells you that you are not good enough, right? So it's really difficult for a girl, especially women, because not only do we have to deal with looking at ourselves in the mirror and seeing that we're pretty, and now with so many photos that are being altered by women, you waking up, you know, I woke up like this, looking in the mirror and be like, I don't look like that girl that says she woke up like this. I am ugly, right? So I think that when a woman looks in the mirror and genuinely sees that she's beautiful, it's an absolute game changer. It's a game changer in your mental health. It's a game changer inside of you. You can achieve anything. But to get to that point, there's so much work. And I wish that when I was in high school, someone really told me that and like made me understand how to do that. Because it's very easy for me as a 35-year-old woman to sit here in front of you and tell you that you're beautiful, than for me, 17-year-old Bricia, 16-year-old Bricia in high school, looking at myself in the mirror and be like, oh my God, I'm the ugliest girl in the world. And those thoughts are carried with you in every single thing that you do. And that's not something you can talk to your mom about, because your mom is like, no, pero estás perdiendo tiempo. Like, I don't have time for you. No, when I grew up, I didn't have those problems. I was too busy trying to figure out how to live, right? Like, hashtag first world problems. But they're not first world problems. I think they're problems that women face internally. It's really, really difficult for a woman to feel beautiful. And then let alone on top of that, you're a brown woman, right? So there's so many more things that you have to deal with. So I think for me, like if I wanted to talk about when I'm in charge of like CEO of my life, I'm in charge of telling myself every single day that I'm beautiful, that I'm amazing, because if I'm not telling that to myself, who is? And also in the Latina culture, if you're like that, you're like presumida, like quien se cree, mírala, you need to calm down, check yourself, your ego's too big. Like, no, it's not about, I'm beautiful. And because I love myself so much, no matter if you think that about me, like I'm just gonna love myself. And that's something that I didn't understand until I was and you know, it may take you longer, or if you're very blessed and are able to really do the work it takes and read books and, you know, listen to Tony Robbins and listen to Oprah and listen to podcasts and get yourself out of scrolling through Instagram for 2 hours a day and take that time to really feed your soul, and you are going to be so much ahead of the curve. And I wish I would have found that in high school than later in my 20s. So for me, when I'm CEO of my health, it's just really me being my biggest cheerleader and learning to be me, even if people don't like me, which is really, really hard.
All right.
Yes.
That was awesome.
Preach.
Awesome.
So we were talking earlier about the summit that I do, the conference. Last year, I added an extra day to the conference, and it was called Wellness Day. And we had it for last year and this year, and for next year, it's going to be integrated into the summit. It's called Heal Track, because we all have so much more healing to do that we don't even realize it because we're not having these conversations. But now we are having these conversations. It took me many years. I mean, I was like 20, almost 30 when I first discovered yoga, but it was because I almost died. Right? I had an emergency operation that left me having to recover, and in that process of recovering, I had to really connect with my body. And it was the first time that I had really seen my body beyond something like something I had to fit para verme bonita or exercise to look good, etc., but something that was keeping me alive and well and healthy, and that I had to have that relationship with it. But I didn't have anybody to teach me, because in high school it was the PE classes, run the mile, play football, do all these things that are honestly not meant for women in many senses, right? And what you're like, yeah, and what we love to do, right? I love to dance, and it took me a long time to understand and realize that there were other ways that I could connect with my body that weren't the ones that I was being fed and told that I needed to do. And as I discovered that, right, it opened up this whole world of possibilities to me, and I started creating my own sense of what made me feel healthy, what made my body feel good, what types of foods. I became vegetarian, etc. And 2 years ago when I launched Wellness Day, it was because I realized that there's still a lack of this information and a lack of role models that look like us, that understand us, right? That have our shared experience and can teach us yoga, can teach us to meditate for the first time. Because if you have an incredible experience meditating the first time, you will be hooked, and you will understand why it's important to you. If you have an incredible yoga class with somebody that really wants to take care of you and teaches you that, you will understand. Ana Lilia, who's over there teaching breath work, I sat at her breath work session on Wellness Day last year. It was about 70 women, right? I think we both looked at each other and almost cried at one moment, because we saw all these women connecting with their bodies. We could feel the energy coming out of them, and them really doing it for the first time. And so many of them have not stopped. Right? But we need those spaces. We need those other women and men to look up to that can provide that to us, and allow yourself the opportunity to discover what makes you feel good inside and outside.
Yeah, so I think in regards to confidence, for me, I didn't really loved myself until I learned to also embrace my hair. So a lot of the time people ask, like, why were you trying to wear your hair natural? And I think that was my own journey of self-love, was embracing this part of me that I kind of had been taught to hate. And I think with that too, it was so many other things that about me that I needed to unpack and be more unapologetic about and not feel ashamed. I remember when I was a little girl, just little memories of you know, me being invited to something where, you know, I was the only girl that was Latina, and there's all these little white girls, and then my dad comes in, you know, right off work, and his worker out clothes, and then he's like talking Spanish. I remember being ashamed, and once I became confident, I was like, wow, like how dare you be even slightly feel that way when this man has done so much for you. So pretty much for me, I think it wasn't until that I learned to love every part of me, my culture, my parents, my humble beginnings, my hair, all of it was when I really felt like I started living, and I started living with a purpose, and I started loving the people around me, my family, and I feel like it just opened up so many more blessings because I saw the world like I actually belonged in it.
I think Patty wanted to tell. Is this working? Oh, cool. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to emphasize that it's like a journey, right? Like this journey to like really like own your body and own that confidence. And I feel like it's a long journey, and it's one that I'm on too. And I'm 28, so I guess I just want to emphasize that like this self-discovery is going to look different for everyone, and sometimes I'm like, oh my god, am I doing self-care right? Like, I don't know, is this am I meditating right? I don't like bubble baths. Like, is this self-care? And it's going to look different for everyone, and you're going to own and celebrate your body differently, and that's cool.
That's a really good point about how it looks different for everybody. And, you know, for me, a big piece of health, and you don't think about this typically, is about your intuition, right? Because you all have that voice inside when something feels off, whether it's with your mental health or with your bodies. You know your body best. And a lot of times, whether it's our parents being like, no, you're fine, like, don't complain, or if it's doctors even that are our authority figures telling us like, no, you know, I'm sure it's just an allergy, or I'm sure it's just like stress. You know, people tend to dismiss our bodies and our health a lot. And I think it's so important to know that, again, as women, we know our bodies best. Trust that voice inside, and to speak and articulate when something's wrong, and to look for these different methods of being able to take care of your health, because we do have resources available to us beyond, you know, doctors, beyond, sorry about the yelling going on, but beyond, you know, having to be at the mercy of other people. And we have these wonderful tools, and you're going to be exposed to some of these tools in a few minutes so that you can explore and see what looks right for you. But before we move on to that, I actually would love to know from each person what concretely are different health practices, wellness practices that you use in your life, because a lot of times I've heard of the ones that I use through other people's recommendations. So I think it'd be really useful to hear what works for you guys.
So I don't have as much time as I would love. Yoga is really what grounds me and centers me. So I also know my body. I'm not a runner. I've tried. It just doesn't work for me. You know, like very high impact stuff doesn't work for me. So for me, it's yoga, and I found like a special type of hot yoga where I can sweat, I can do cardio, I can do everything, and that way I can only do it when I can during the week. And meditation and writing, so journaling, but doing a lot of like the intuition-based journaling, where you just kind of ask a question, close your eyes, and allow the pen to move, kind of without you editing what's coming out, because that's really your voice, unedited, telling you really what you want to hear, right? Having that conversation with yourself. Those are some of the things that, you know, I'm always trying out new things, and I have like tools in my toolbox. You're going to learn a little bit about breath work right now. Breath work was transformative for me. There's a lot that happens every time I go to a breath work class, so I'm so excited that you're going to get to experience that. But it really is about testing out what works for you, grabbing the tools, putting them in your toolbox.
So I have been journaling since I was in middle school, and that really was a thing that really helped me. And every time I even look back at previous journal entries, I just thinking, oh my gosh, how hurt I felt inside, because there's nothing more powerful than letting go of your feelings and emotions. And I still do it to this day. I'm not going to lie to you guys and say I do it every single day, twice a day at all. There are seasons where I go weeks without journaling, and I can tell the difference in my mind, because then I start talking to myself. Not like that guy. I'm just like talking to myself in just negative thoughts and questioning everything I say, and play every conversation I've had with other people in my mind. Should I have said that? Why did I say that? They must think I'm like this. They must think of that. And when I started catching myself thinking about what other people think of me, that's when I know something's happening and that's wrong, that's misaligned. I should not be worrying about what other people think of me. So that's when I go into my journal and write everything out, and it just calms my mind. And there are seasons when I journal every single day. There are seasons when I journal every single morning, and it feels just so light and just so like, okay, I'm effing ready to take over this. I'm going to kill today. I'm going to be amazing. So that's been so great. My I would say physical journey, as you know, working out and being active, begun when I was 21 years old. So that's when I really took upon myself to just, you know, figuring out what health looked like, and understanding what, you know, working out was. And to this day, I'm very active most of the time. Again, there are seasons like summer that I did nothing. I went 3 months without even lifting up one weight or getting on my bike once. I love spinning. I discovered spinning when I was 25, and I've been doing it a lot. So I do that 3 times a week. And stretching, I think, is also another thing that I absolutely love. I tried yoga, but since I work out at home, I have a 4-year-old son, and I don't have time to go to, I don't make time. I don't hate using the word I don't have time. I choose not to make time to drive somewhere. So for me, in my mind, I'm doing yoga, but I know I'm just really stretching. There's so many guys on Instagram, or people on Instagram. There's this guy called Therapy Joe that I love to follow on Instagram. They give so many great things on how to massage your own body and how to stretch or how to arch your back. And I promise it's helped me so much. So in my mind, I'm doing yoga, but I'm just really stretching. And yeah, I think those are the things that do. Oh, and the most important one, I don't know how, the most important part of my self-care journey that really, really, really makes me feel great is really having a relationship with God. I go to church every Sunday. When I feel that I am going to pass out and the whole world's gonna, be on top of me, and like I can no longer be me, I will turn in some like hardcore Jesus music and worship music, and I just get on my knees and I'm like, Lord, allow the Holy Spirit to enter my body, because I cannot do this by myself. So for me, it's really having a relationship with faith. I know a lot of people use their intuition, or there's so many different ways of looking at it. To me, it looks like God and prayer and worship music, but for me, that really is the way I maintain grounded, and that's how I'm the better me every single day.
One of the best realizations I had growing up was that happiness is something that comes from within myself, and it's something that I have the power to create and to spread. So for me, what's always helped me is I have this little like recipe list in my notes, and it changes all the time, of my recipe of happiness, and that's what I call it. But it's not necessarily like my recipe of happiness per se, but it's if I'm feeling down for whatever reason, I turn to my little list and I have all these little things that I know are things that I love. And there's random stuff like frozen yogurt, going hiking, taking a bubble bath, going dancing, stuff like that. But I think what's been so important, realizing that, they turn off the mic, they're like, she's talking about hiking. With realizing that was that it's so important for me to know how to make myself happy at any point. So no matter what happens in my life, whether I'm having the worst day ever, whether, whatever I wanted to happen didn't turn out the way it did, at the end of the day, I have that power to turn my own day upside down. Like, I don't have to turn to anybody else to do that for me. I can do that for myself. And if it really is a bad day, I can always turn to my little list, and I know 20 things that are going to for sure put a smile on my face.
I love it.
I guess in terms of like self-care and like health and wellness practices, for me it's like crying. So like sometimes you just gotta cry it out, man. And I love throwing a pity party for myself, and then like just like having my tantrum and then keep it pushing. So that's one. Disconnecting. I love like throwing all like my devices like away, not in away, but like turning off. Like, you don't have to be talking to your friends all the time. You don't have to be texting all the time, responding to emails all the time. And so I think like that really helps me like ground myself. And I think the third thing is being creative. I think creativity helps me so much to just like center and ground myself. And it makes me so happy to just like produce or like to create something art or something artsy. And I think for me, I've also realized that like self-care or wellness doesn't mean you have to buy anything. It doesn't mean you need a gym membership. It doesn't mean you have to like buy cool leggings. I mean, you could, but it doesn't mean it's like something you have to consume. It's something that you could just do at home to like really ground yourself.
Great. Thank you very much. So I realized we started about 5 minutes late, so I wanted to give an opportunity for the audience to ask maybe one question, because we really want to get you to break out into the different sessions, because we have some amazing people here to share their knowledge with us. So I want to ask someone, does anyone have a question from the audience? Yes. You want to stand up and say your name, what school you come from, and then ask me your question. Come on up. Come on. I love the first person that asked
what we're
the
talking
question.
about.
So I love your bravery. Why don't you go ahead and use the mic? Tell us who you are, your name, what school you come from, and what your question is.
My name is Magali Barajas, and I go to Panorama High School.
In my district.
My question is, do you have any advice on choosing careers when I go to college, or like preparing myself for that mentality to know what's gonna go on and all that?
What do you like to do?
Cheer.
You like to dance? Okay. And you like to be around people? So I think that question is that was something that I battled with. Like when I went to college and I was like, what major am I going to do? What am I into? I was a cheerleader too in high school, and I loved dancing, being around people. Like, I loved that. So I would say literally college for me was my time to figure it out, to explore. If my biggest recommendation for people that are trying to search for their passion is try a bunch of things. Literally, especially in college, where you see it as your time to be able to explore with some of the greatest minds out there. I would sit in, even when I was trying to figure out my major, I would go sit in a psychology class. I would go sit in this econ class. I would go sit in on different stuff and just see if I like it or not. And if I didn't like it, I know that's not going to be my major. If I did like it, then I would start exploring it more. And also, when finding your passion, sometimes it doesn't have to be that complicated, because I think a lot of the time we think of a passion as a verb, as something that you do, like dancing, singing, writing. And if you don't know how to do one of those actions, you feel like, man, I don't even have a passion. But for me, it wasn't an action. I started thinking of a passion as more of a noun, as something more broad. And my passion is my culture. So now anything that I do that has to do with my culture, I know that, it's following my true calling. So that would be my advice to you, is to find your passion first, figure out what you enjoy doing, and then from there, try to see if you want to go the corporate route, if you want to work for somebody else, if you want to do something for yourself. But first, just to learn.
I love that answer.
It's awesome.
Right on. I love it. I love that answer. I think growing up, I don't think everyone ever asked me what my passion was, although I knew what it was. But I think you're right. And I think we live in a society where there's so much creativity, especially with social media. Sometimes I get scared of social media because sometimes I think it may not be
you can come up and sit with us up here if you want.
You want to take a seat?
I mean,
there you go. Come on up. There's a stairways on the back.
Sandwich.
There you go.
there you go. See?
Let's hear it for our cheerleader.
That's called bravery.
Anyways, I don't want to talk anymore.
Any other
I think
questions?
We need to get to our.
Any other questions? Yeah.
So my question is, so you guys kind of touched on, those like moments where you're so low, where you lose everything. But like in those moments where you feel like there's no money, there's probably lost contact with your family, or like where you feel so down, what are your ways to like change your mindset and into like, instead of like a mindset of failure, a mindset of success? And how do you do that when like you just can't, when you don't see a way to like bring yourself back up? I don't know if I asked that right.
Well, again, I'm just going to go back to, for me, it looks like prayer, and it looks for me worship. It also looks at me, for me, it also looks like giving back is always something that's really, really important. When I feel like I'm so down, I mean, again, when I went from having everything to like absolutely nothing. Every car we had got repossessed. We lost all the restaurants. My parents had to declare bankruptcy. We were hundreds and thousands of dollars in debt. Like, we were just at the bottom. It was just really, at the end of the day, having faith that it was going to get better. Now, how you get into the mindset, I would literally sit there and I would just think of what my life it looks like. Not the way it looks like today, but the way my life looks like today without problems. You know, I would sit there and I would picture myself in a home with a husband, with a child, with a successful business, and I would say, okay, that is where I'm headed. Today I'm gonna do one thing to get me there. And I would just focus on that image in my mind as opposed to the image that I saw around me when I would open my eyes. So I think that that's really what got me to where I am today. I mean, right now we have over 100 employees. You know, we're very blessed. We have several businesses. It has been a journey, but today I still do the same thing because I still have so many more dreams. So it's just really visualizing exactly where you belong and asking whatever it is, the universe, your intuition. For me, it looks like God, and worshiping Jesus and listening to worship music and going to church every single Sunday and always helping other people. For me, like when I would go and volunteer and help other people, it's amazing how that makes you feel and makes you understand that, oh, I'm actually super blessed. No matter how low I am actually very, very blessed. And when you start changing that really is when everything starts really happening, because then you start feeling better about yourself. You start getting your confidence back. You start getting that mojo back. You walk a different way. You talk a different way, and you don't carry that like negativity in you that it's sort of that extracting the wrong energy. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Okay.
I want to add really, really quickly because I know we have to go, but also just it's a mind shift and it's work. It comes with prayer. It comes with meditation. It comes with all these other tools to try to shift it, to see a loss or a moment where things feel like nothing is happening, nothing is going right for me, I've lost everything, into a moment of opportunity. This is a moment of creation. This is a moment that you have tons of doors opening up for you. Instead of seeing doors closing, you see doors open. Because now, yes, you've lost, but that means that now you've created space in your life for something new to come in. And it's your opportunity to step up and visualize it, manifest it, pray for it, ask for it, connect to your angels, to your guides, to your intuition, whatever it may be, to writing, to understand what is the opportunity that I have in front of me now.
So on that note, please give a huge round of applause for our panelists. Please follow them and check out what they're doing, because they're all doing incredible work, and I'm so inspired by all of them.